Welcome back to the Movie Review Teacher, and today we are here reviewing A Magnificent Life. Now, going into this movie, I really did not know what it was going to be about, especially from the perspective of there's not very many movies opening up this week in theaters. So for me, it was just an opportunity to go see something while we are on spring break. We are finally here. But A Magnificent Life focuses on the biography of Marcel Pagnot, and we get a chance to see it in an animated fashion. Now, I have to admit, looking at it from an animated side of the story, I really did not know if it was going to be successful or not, really because animated movies really are strong or they are very weak. And a lot of that comes from the choppiness that you see throughout the duration of the movie, but ultimately some of the storytelling can falter when you are telling it in an animated fashion. But I have to give this movie credit. The animation in this movie does well enough where you're able to sit back and just allow it to flow. It doesn't feel choppy. There are moments that it is, but there are moments where you also go, oh, that makes sense, and that was done very well. So I will give this movie credit. The animation throughout the duration of the film is actually pretty solid. But now let's get into the story. What I really enjoyed about this movie was we are starting off in the 1950s, and then we are kind of taking a time travel back to his early life and really seeing how he got in the position that he is in at the time in the 1950s. And so as you watch the story unfold on the screen, you are able to live in the current moment, but you are also able to see a lot of his failures, but ultimately the successes and the journey that the movie is wanting to take you on. And so for an hour and a half, you are able to see the different situations that Marcel has been in, and it ultimately gives you the perception that this story is going to flow very well. Now, I say that to say this. My one issue with this movie that really stood out was there are moments throughout the duration of the film where you start to feel lost. Now, he moves to Paris, he has this teaching role, but there are certain situations where the time is kind of jumping back and forth a little bit too much, and you start to wonder who is actually on the screen. Is it Marcel or is it his father? And so as I sat in that lonely theater because I was the only one in there, I start to kind of second guess what I was actually seeing on the screen. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I think when you're looking at the time jumps and you want it to just be a little bit more crisp, because as you sit back and you're watching this story unfold, which it's all based on true events, but when you see a movie like this, you kind of understand that there are some things that are loosely based on real events, and they're going to kind of take that creative liberty and extend it a little bit or shorten it a little bit. I just wish it would have flowed a little bit better in that time. But as you sit down and watch this movie, I have to give this movie a lot of props. Because when you're taking real events and you're putting them into an animated fashion and you're trying to tell the story of young Marcel and adult Marcel, I think having those two characters on the screen together gave you the understanding of who he was. I think for me, as somebody that does not know much about him, I'm not somebody that is big into musicals or plays. For me, it gave me a chance to kind of see some of the works that he established, but ultimately see some of the struggles that he went through to reach the peak that he got. Now, he is known worldwide, and he is somebody that is well regarded in the 20th century in terms of French playwriters. And so I think when you have this where he's trying to put his own story on the screen from the perspective of he is asked to write his life for a magazine, I think that allows this movie to at least have some hope, and I think it was okay. Now, as far as rating, for me, a movie like this with very little expectations, I think it actually was very successful in what it was trying to say. Because I did not feel bored at times. I thought the movie flowed very well for the most part. But the one thing that I do like about this movie was the cuts. I think when you go in an animated movie, some of the cuts are where you're going to really look at it and see how does it transition from one scene to the next. And I think this movie actually did a good job of those transitions, and the transitions made sense. But what I will tell you is this. I know I said it's time for the rating, but I will say this. If you are looking at this movie and seeing that it is an animated movie, this is not a movie that you want to take kids to. Kids will have no interest in this. They are going to look at it and be bored because this is an animated movie that's more geared towards adults. Adults that can handle some language, adults that can kind of understand the situations on the screen. But now we're getting into rating. For me, A Magnificent Life is a 2.5 out of 5. I say that because for me, at the end of the day, this is not a movie that really just stood out. I think it did its job. I had a good time with it, but it is not a movie that I could honestly say I would sit back and watch again. So, A Magnificent Life is out now. If you like movies like this, or you like novels or plays, and you know who Marcel is, and you want to learn a little bit more about him, this is a chance to sit down for an hour and a half and enjoy what you see on the screen. So for me, A Magnificent Life is a 2.5. Stay tuned for more reviews coming. Make sure to hit the subscribe button, and I will talk to you all later.